What's up, guys? Welcome to this new video about the Albion Online patch notes. This is going to be a unscripted series where me and random co-hosts talk about the upcoming patch notes for Albion. We talk about the changes, how they interact with the game, and if we think they're good or bad. And I hope you guys enjoy. We're just going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. So these changes are intended to go live with the next update, Abyssal Depths. We aim to address highly repeatable Q mobilities, bring certain outliers into line, and give power to underperforming abilities. Let's check it out. Arcane staffs. Astral Staff has been hard to deal with in large group fights. The resilience penetration is being reduced to keep its top-end damage potential comparable to alternatives. It's 15% penetration, which isn't that much, right? Because penetration, let's see. Resilience. Resilience only goes up to like 80% in like the highest skill fights, right? So what is 15% of 80? 0.8 times 0.15. Well, I gotta put a... There you go. It's only a 12% damage decrease in like the highest skill fights. It's actually quite considerable, I guess. 12% is not bad.
It's quite a lot, yeah. But I think fixing first of all the weapon would be way more interesting, right? Because even if, I don't know, this is probably only for ZVZ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for ZVZ it doesn't really... yeah, but I mean, it's a massive nerf, I think. 10% is quite a lot, no?
Although I've heard people say that a lot of Astral Staffs play on roasted pork for the healing, right? So all they have to do is to switch to beef stew and their damage would be the same.
So I guess you just have to play better the game and
yeah,
you'll be punished for it.
I'm not sure if everyone plays roasted pork, but I've heard people that say like a lot of Astrals are playing lifesteal food. So you can just counteract this nerf if you are playing lifesteal food by just going beef stew. Yeah, you won't heal anything, but you're going to do the same damage. Probably more, actually, because beef stew is like 17% on the higher tiers, so... overall, I think it's a good change. Time Freeze continues to be a very effective utility option for large groups. We're increasing its mana cost and its cooldown at low item power to require a bit more investment for the impact. With no reduction at 1460 item power. Yeah, you can guard rune it, you can cleanse it, as I showed it in a past video, sort of, but I don't know. I don't really see this being that impactful, because most people play at around 1500 anyway, if you're doing ZVZ, which would be the same. It only really nerfs it for like small teams that are playing like lower tier. But why would you do that? I don't really see the point. It wasn't really a problem in those smaller groups, in my opinion. Bloody Reap has fallen out of the meta following the previous nerf. We are reverting the older nerf to bring it back into consideration. Infernal Scythe goes from 25 seconds cooldown to 20. This is fine. I don't think it's going to save the weapon again. In most cases, bot letter is just a better Infernal Scythe. Why would you ever pick an Infernal Scythe, in my opinion? I don't particularly care for this lower cooldown. I don't think it's going to be used all that much, but we'll have to see. We fixed a bug that resulted in lower than expected healing. The lifesteal strength is being reduced to compensate. Yeah, no, okay. So what was happening is it was healing less than it should, but SBI kind of wants to keep it like healing less in that same manner. So they're fixing the bug, but just reducing the lifesteal, so it stays the same, right? Is what they're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if they are right in this, in fixing the bug, and this being compensation enough, then Bear Boss just stays the same, from what I'm seeing here. So sure, fix a bug, that's good. For bows, following the previous buff that significantly reduced cooldown, Deadly Shot has been highly effective. To keep in range in line with the rest of the field, we are reverting a previous buff to limit low cooldown off-screen poke. I think this is more like a nerf for show. I don't think this really will impact a lot. At least I don't see a lot of situations where that 2 meter range really matters a lot here. Enchanted Quiver has struggled to find a place since the rework. On top of a short cooldown, to give its usage more impact, we are reducing the total amount of enchanted arrows, but increasing the damage per arrow. Cooldown goes to 10 seconds, you get less initial arrows, less arrows on recast, one less maximum arrow, but you get 50% more damage on arrow, and you do more damage when they're in your AoE, also by 50%. So this just means that you do more damage on hit, but your E actually does less damage per cast. This kind of actually nerfs it for PvE a little bit, I think. For PvP, I think it's good, because you can just auto-attack 4 times instead of 6, and do a little bit less damage, but you're standing still less. You have a lower cooldown dash. All in all, I think this is a good buff. I don't think it's enough, though, for a bow to be relevant in most content.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you would play it over the new crystal weapon, which is an iframe that you can't really get hit. I mean, Curse E, for example, will still go through, right? But you can dodge like Daggers, jackets, for example. Why would you choose to play this bow over that, or a baton bow, which is basically the same thing? Like, let's say you're fighting any PvP situation, you usually stay in it, the enemy can hit you, so you have invulnerability and damage. Why would you choose to play this bow over that?
And Skyrider Bow also kind of counters Merc Jacket, right? Because you can just stay in the air for a bit and let their Merc Jacket gen out, so they don't have any healing. I don't think this will be relevant in any content. It's actually a slight nerf in PvE, if I get it correctly here, because you get like way less arrows, and then PvE you can just stand still and cast, or just auto attack and stand still, so I don't think this is the buff that it needs. I think it needs a way bigger buff to become relevant ever again. We're removing the mini knockback in favor of a slow and reducing the cooldown significantly to make multi-shot both more attractive to play and as well as less frustrating to play against. This is a massive nerf. The slow is not very relevant. 1 second slows are not very good in general. 25% slow is also pretty bad. Because a lot of weapons are getting slows now. If you look at last patch, Great Frost got a slow as well by 10%. All the slows are just going to be DRing each other, which means the slow is going to be like nothing in the long run. So I don't really see it. I don't really see the slow here. Cooldown 3 seconds is huge, honestly. The damage is going to... multi-shot does a lot of damage on hit. So 3 seconds cooldown is going to be quite nice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? The cooldown is really good at it. So maybe they will realize fucked up at some point, and maybe they will do like the slow for 2 seconds and do it like 30% or something like that. And then it will be in a very good position, I would think, because in a other group, like if you're doing small scale content, sure, maybe some people will prefer it over the Pierce. But if the slow is good enough, I think there is some occasions where you would like to play this W over the other ones, the Kuma, yeah.
Yeah, I think the cooldown should stay 5 seconds and the slow should be slightly stronger. Either 2 seconds or 30% for 1 second or 35%. I think it would be way better. Because, it mainly becomes just a damage skew at this point. Give it a Royal Jacket and it's just starts fucking spamming like shotgun shots in front of you, but I don't know about that.
No, that won't work.
Divine Engine has picked up a lot of play following the recent buffs. We are actively watching its performance, but in the meantime, we are adding its missing energy cost. Why has this been in the game for 2 years? Why has it had 0 energy cost for so long? Sure, it's a nerf, but it should have been on release already, so it doesn't really matter all that much. I also don't think it really impacts the weapon in any way, shape, or form.
No, but I don't get that. Why did it have 0 energy cost?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Oh well. Armor Pierce is getting a re-escalation added to its resistance reduction debuff, but as it's already a well-performing ability, its damage output is therefore being reduced. That's great. Damage goes down a bit, which is nice. I think Armor Piercer, even in this iteration, it's still way too strong. They actually get a ranged buff because the visual was 24 meters, but the actual hitbox was 22. But they're just fixing the hitbox to be 24 meters as well. But again, 24 meters, like does that 2 meter at the end there really matter all that much in most situations? No. Sure, in some cases you might have pierced one more person, but
like the damage you don't really personally care. Like even if it's like let's say front to back or a ZVZ or a smaller content like let's say 4 people, right? I mean the damage on it is good, for sure, but you really care about the pierce of it, like how easily and how reliable you land your pierce. And then they also added missing AoE escalation on it, so like you will pierce for more. Yes, if I understand it correctly, right?
Yeah.
So that's
the issue I have with this is Tank Curse was already really strong, right? Tank Demonic for kiting, and then you have a Pierce anyway. But now they're nerfing the damage, so playing Tank is even, for playing Plate Armor at least, is even more incentivized now, because you're getting a bigger Pierce even on Plate. The damage was relevant on Plate anyway, so it's just a big buff to Plate Curse, which I kind of like. I'm a big fan of Plate Curse, actually. Deadly Swipe is having its range reduced to keep its mobility potential under control. This is kind of a pointless nerf, I think. This doesn't really do a lot. The 0.5 meters on Q. It'll make them less mobile, sure, but I don't think you can really say much about this. It's just a slight nerf, is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I guess it deserves a nerf in some areas because it is mobile, but they already like not destroyed, but they hard nerf mobility on the W, on Throwing Blades last patch. So Avalanche has been picking up some play, but to get where SBI, show me the numbers. Where have people been playing fucking Hoarfrost? This is a lie. This is not true. Anyway. But to give it another small push, we're no longer allowing the slow to be cleansed while in the Snowball's trail. The slow will be still removed after you leave the trail. This does nothing. This is the most pointless buff I've ever seen in my life. Who is using their cleanse to cleanse a Hoarfrost slow? This doesn't happen in the game. This doesn't happen.
You know, like, oh fuck, that 1 in a billion time I could cleanse that. No.
This doesn't happen. No one plays Hoarfrost because it's bad. No one cleanses the slow from Hoarfrost because it's fucking pointless. All this does, right? all this change does is just increase the text size on the Hoarfrost E. Just have they have to just add a line, can no longer be cleansed or something like that. That's it. That's all this does. This is the most pointless thing I've ever seen. Give it a damage buff, give it a speed buff, give it anything, but it doesn't do anything. Alright. Glacial Prison, which is Chill Howl, did not have a clear range indicator for the size of its damage. We are unifying the damage size with the FEX for better readability, then increasing the damage to compensate. And I don't really see nerfing the AoE at all. I don't think the AoE was an issue. Just make the visual bigger, no? Like if the problem was the hitbox is like bigger than what you see in the game, just make the circle bigger. Why are you nerfing the range on it?
I'm not sure. I haven't really had enough experience to comment on this. But I do think the damage is pretty significant. And I don't think it's pretty hard to hit. Like, I think it's pretty simple, right? Maybe you would have to play a bit better with your Qs in order like to slow your enemy and then hit your E, right? You can just play it full defensive, throw it on the ground, and know it's always gonna hit, and you can always kite, right? So maybe it makes the weapon a bit harder to play, and then the damage is pretty significant, right? Like base damage 230 to 2. That's a massive buff on the damage of it. We are speaking big numbers here. Like 20 plus damage is a lot.
It is. It's not. I guess for 1v1 it's a buff, but for group play, I don't really see nerfing the range. I don't think that was an issue at all. I think if they kept the damage radius as big as it was and buffed the damage, it would have been about the same, right? I don't get the pointless nerf to the range.
Ace, was there any point on Chill Howl where you could hit the enemies that were trapped in your E?
No, you always hit people that trapped in your E.
Yeah, so like this would be like a very good thing for this weapon to become like a ZVZ or a massive weapon if you hit the enemies that were trapped inside the prison, right? Because right now they're invulnerable.
Yeah, but they're still invulnerable though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you actually want to buff the weapon and make it useful for group play, let the enemies that are prison.
Oh, that's way too strong. No, I think that's way too strong, dude.
Yeah, you can work on that. But right now, when was the last time you saw someone play Chill Howl?
Yeah, it's mainly a solo weapon. So that's what I'm saying, right? It's like a solo weapon only. So why are you nerfing the range? It doesn't do anything. You're just buffing it. It's just a buff. Hammers. Seismic Tremor. Final hit has been sped up to make PvE and PvP stun combos more successful. I have never seen this ability being played, and no one will play it after this quote-unquote buff. 0.2 seconds on the cast time is quite literally irrelevant. There's still like a million things that can interrupt you in a big fight, in a solo fight while you're playing Seismic Tremor. I didn't even know this ability really existed. Like, no one uses this. This is pointless. I think it should just be reworked and changed for something that we can actually use in the game instead of having a useless W on hammers. Sacred Pulse Heal is being changed to a single target to help Holy Staff players feel more secure in PvE. Finally, it should have never been an AoE heal. It was a big mistake. I'm glad they finally realized. Way back in the day, this used to be a heal over time, which I think is a lot better than the burst heal. But sure, this is just a better version of Sacred Pulse. Is it going to be meta now? No, Holy Beam is too strong. Holy Orb is still really strong. I really hope that SBI would consider changing the heal back to heal over time, because I think that was the best version Sacred Pulse has ever been in. Smite has been having its cooldown and damage increase to help Holy Staffs in PvE and PvP. You do the same amount of damage, it's just on a higher cooldown, which means if you now miss a Smite, you're kind of fucked, because you're just losing a lot of damage. And if you missed a Smite before, it only had 2-second cooldown, now you're on 3. I don't think it's, I think Holy kinda got the short end of the stick again, because Nature got buffed way more. This won't make it relevant in PvE. This won't make it relevant in PvP either.
Kind of weird changes. I don't get them, to be totally honest with you. Like if you're doing high levels of PvE, you need your Qs. You have to heal your tank. If let's say you're doing group dungeons, maybe you're doing Royal Expeditions, or whatever you would wish to do, there is no reason for you to change. You have like dedicated 8.4 DPS, right? So there is no point into a healer trolling with his Q. And for PvP, yes, the damage is big, but even if you miss like 1 Q, imagine being 3 seconds with no ability, basically, right? Because that's the build. I think it's very punishing, even if you want to do like Corrupted or Hellgates or whatever you want might to do with this. I don't think it's an option anymore.
I just think this just makes like missing a Q more punishing. Well, you're not really getting any benefit out of it, because the damage is just the same basically per second if you do hit all of them. Like you can move slightly more because you have to stand still like 1 second less every cast, but I don't really think that's worth the downside of missing 1 Q and then being bombarded by the enemy for 3 seconds. Yeah, I think this is kind of pointless. I don't think it really accomplishes like anything at all. Sanctify's area removal pool has been slightly expanded to include two spells that contain buffing components in addition to their hostile effects, increasing the potential value in bringing an Exalted Staff support with 2 or more valid removal targets. It now removes Smoke's Bomb from High and Hood and Time Corridor from Occult Staff. Okay, who cares? Is it really worth to bring? Is it worth to bring an entire weapon to remove a Hellion Hood? I don't think so. Why? I don't really get the point of the Exalted Staff anyway. I guess in CVC it's played just for the removal and for the health increase. But for any other content, this doesn't matter. The Hellion Hood, I don't know. I mean, it's a buff, like it does more than it used to do, but I don't think this will make this weapon suddenly good, right?
That's true. I mean, okay, next thing where would you use an Exalted Staff? It would probably be in groups of 20 and above, right? Because even if you're 20, redemptions and a nature staff that could stabilize my Zerg, then a useless Q&W holy staff with an E that he can use every 50 seconds, right? Maybe if you would like to do that, give it a way lower cooldown. We're speaking like maybe 20 seconds, and do the heals even less. Like it doesn't heal anyways. Make it fucking dog shit at healing, but it has a point where it can cleanse its allies, right? It's more of a supporting holy. It's not a healer holy. You cleanse, like remove the things from the ground. Yeah,
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, change the mindset of the weapon around. Like it's not a holy stuff to heal. It's to support. It's there to help you out and get fucked by a one shot or something like that.
I think that's a fair point. I think that Sanctify, the heal should just be removed because it's pointless anyway. Keep the max HP because that's actually really good. And then make the anti-ground based area thingy, make it like a lingering effect of like maybe 2 seconds. So for 2 seconds, you can't be any Hellion Hoods, for example, in that area, right, from the enemy team. Currently, it works like it's just only removes it when you cast it, right? Doesn't like linger, I don't think. That's what I would do with this. I just think this is pointless. I don't think this will make it any more used than it is right now. Okay, let's go to Maces. Gravitas is getting a cooldown reduction to remove Morningstar's downtime. 40 seconds for an E, man. No wonder no one plays Morningstar anymore. Look, I think Morningstar has a flawed weapon design. You need to hit 3 people consistently to get a lot out of the weapon. The problem is, once you can consistently hit 3 people, the weapon is fucking useless. I get it, right? Morningstar was really broken for ganking, because you could just have 2 Morningstars and just permanently hold down 1 target. Fine, that's fucking broken. I would highly recommend reducing the amount of people needed to hit to 2, so it's easy. So it's actually usable in like a lot of content instead of 3, and reduce the cooldown to like 30 or 35 maybe. This will not see Morningstar coming back at all. 40 is still way too long for a tank weapon. What's the cooldown on one-handed mace, for example, right? For the big AoE stun and the dash and immovable, it's 25 seconds. Like this is not good enough, like at all.
It's too much. Just too much.
40 is still way too long. Nature stats, finally. Thorngrove's area size is starting out larger to make it easier to land in PvP. This is insane. Okay, so the way nature works, right, is the thorns on nature. It starts out as a non-AoE and grows really rapidly into an AoE, right? The problem with this is if you are chasing someone, and you put the Q on top of them, they won't get hit before they already moved out of it. So you won't slow them, you won't damage them. This will secure that you will always, if you put it right on top of them, you will always slow them and hit them. The slow being the biggest part. With the slow, you can make sure you hit other Qs, hit auto attacks, catch up to them, right? I think this is a pretty massive change for PvP, one-handed nature, or like for solo PvP, sorry, for nature staffs. For PvE, this doesn't really matter all that much. You might get 1 more tick actually out of, you might get like 1 more damage tick out of nature, out of thorns, so that might be good. But I think this is a way better Q change than Smite, though. Like, this is way better than Smite.
Yeah, I mean, this is way better than change, sure. It makes sense that you'll be able to do damage since nature stuff doesn't have any mobility in this kit. I suppose, yeah.
I think this is a really good change, and I think nature's gonna be pretty good now in 1v1. Like not top tier, but it's going to be able to actually chase people down if they use their boots a bit wrong or something like that. Well of Life's cooldown is being reduced to give well-staffed players a faster second cast if the initial cast didn't provide sufficient healing. First of all, the initial cast will provide sufficient healing because Wildstaff is OP already. This cooldown reduction is insane. Wildstaff is going to be the undisputed best healing staff in the game. 20 seconds cooldown on a Wildstaff E is insane. I'm telling you, dude. This is going to get nerfed again, for sure.
The one thing I was thinking about Wildstaff, the problem was perhaps the sticks were too much, right? So if your comp was require to kite a lot, maybe you wouldn't get the full heal just because you would get more damage by standing in it, right? But right now, with the previous buffs on the other patches, where it's 4 ticks right now, right, in 4 seconds, and then a 20-second cooldown, I think it's massive. Basically, your E, if you count the time that it's on the ground, is going to be available every 16 seconds, right? If you play cooldown food on it, depending what type of content you are doing, I don't see why would you ever not put a wild stuff inside of a 20-man. It's insane. One duty, one E, you get full health. There's nothing that can happen to you. It's impossible to die. It's quite amazing to me, this buff. Like 4 seconds as well. Massive, massive buff on wild stuff.
Right. And wild stuff, right? Even if you walk through it now, because it's only 4 ticks, if you just walk straight through it, you get 3 ticks anyway, out of 4, if you don't stand still at all. So it's just it's so insane. Like, this is such a big buff. I think this is going to break healing for a bit until they nerf it. I'm gonna play this in 4vx. I'm gonna Mystic Rock's aura radius is being slightly increased to help them balance players. Okay. I don't like this change because I think Scythe Balance is already in a really good place. I think it's a very strong weapon as it is. The problem, this buff is trying to buff something that Scythe Balance doesn't need buffed. Scythe Balance doesn't have trouble with sticking on a target, right? They have mobility in their Q. They have cartwheel, which got buffed last patch. They got mobility in their W. They got stun run, which gives them both movement speed and stuns the enemy. So the problem with Scythe Balance wasn't the fact that they couldn't stick on an enemy at all. So why are you making the radius bigger? Is my question.
Right, quarterstaffs do have a lot of innate mobility in their
Yeah, they do. So the only reason why you would buff the AoE is because you want to stick on your targets, right? But quarterstaff doesn't have an issue with that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is that big of a change. I don't think this really does anything. I don't think this will make Scythe Balance more played. I think they should buff it some other way if they want to actually buff it. Either more healing reduction or bigger slow, something like that. All right, the big change, Shapeshifter staffs. Hellspawn Imp continues to dominate the top of 2v2s, which is correct. We are adding a disruption factor to Hellfire Barrage, which reduces the channel duration of if hit, to give opponents a clear option to fight back. If not under pressure, Hellfire Barrage output is unchanged. Okay. For those that don't know, disruption factor is the same thing that the nature W has. If you get hit, you lose channel time, basically. The nature staff has a disruption staff. The revitalized nature W has a disruption factor of 10, so this is half of that. If anyone's ever played or seen the nature W, if you get hit twice, basically, your entire channel is just gone, that's why no one uses it anymore. So I'm assuming the way this works, that if you get hit like 3 or 4 times, your entire channel is just gone. I talked to Motable the other day when this patch notes came out, and we talked a bit about it, and I kind of agree with him that the problem with this nerf is that it's nerfing the wrong thing again. In 2v2 Hellgates, if you're being pressured, right, you didn't really have the option to go into the imp and hit him a few times to disrupt his W. So in 2v2, yes, it's a big nerf for sure, but you can still play around it and still get your W off pretty effectively if you really play around it. The issue is if you're playing Hellspawn or if you're playing Imp in older content, like let's say you want to do a 4vx clap comp with Imp, or you want to do 7-man roads with Imp, or use it in ZVZ for whatever reason. It just means that in those content, because there's so many more enemies than 2, your W can just practically never be cast, because it's just going to get interrupted instantly, just by random attacks flying your way, right? So this nerf is unproportionally nerfing Hellspawn for other content than 2v2. Like, yeah, it's a nerf for 2v2, but it's a bigger nerf for other content.
Yeah. It's kind of fucked up what is happening here. This is like, this is murder straight up.
This is a war crime. This is not a nerf. This is a war crime. Like, this should not be in the game. I think disruption factor is like one of the most stupid mechanics in this game anyway. I don't think it should exist. But yeah, no. I don't think this is the way to go around nerfing Imp, because Imp does definitely need a nerf.
Yeah.
Like, you could even, if you really wanted to, you could even play something like a Phase Skill Hat to make sure you get it. But at that point, you are wasting your helmet slot, because that just means you get 1 W off every 20 seconds. Other helmets are just more valuable, right? Than that. I think they should nerf Imp in a different way, either damage or cooldown or...
They could have tried something else first before doing this. This is a bit excessive.
I think it is, yeah. Corrupting Steel's area damage has usually felt like a tacked on afterthought. That's right. No one cared about Spirit Hunter damage over time. We are reworking it to have an additional magical resistance reduction to give certain compositions a reason to choose Spirit Hunter. So the area no longer deals damage over time. It now decreases the enemy's magical resistance by an additional 0.04, and it now gets AoE escalation. I'm not exactly sure how much an 0.04 magic resistance debuff is. We have to see it in game to see how much it is. The issue I have with it is though, right? It's either going to be a useless buff where the magical resistance doesn't really matter, or it's going to just be too strong. If you compare Spirit Hunter to Carving, currently Spirit Hunter is held back because Spirit Hunter just pierces a lot less, right? Because Carving actually takes some people would disagree with this, but Carving takes some amount of skill to play. You have to get 3 stacks before you pierce, blah, blah, blah. Spirit Hunter, you stay in the back of the enemy team, your caller calls hit, you press E and you log back again, right? There's no skill involved in Spirit Hunter. So I hope the AoE escalation and adding AoE escalation and adding a magical resistance penetration, I hope it doesn't break the weapon too much to where why would you ever play Carving over Spirit Hunter?
I mean, I personally like that they buffed it. I don't really see the point behind removing the damage out of it. But sure, I don't know. But isn't 0.04 too little of a buff?
I'm not actually sure how much resistance is on 0.04. Because 0.04 sounds little, but by what metric is this? Is this for every IP you get 0.04 PS? Because then it's broken. But I would have to check that out, right? Sword passive movement speed is being reworked to preserve high movement speed bonus while in active combat, but reduce their escape potential if there's no targets nearby. So they removed the 9% movement speed per stack. They added the 20% movement speed for 5 seconds on the AoE queue, for 3 seconds on the single target queue, and Iron Will got buffed out of the fucking wazoo. I fucking hate this change. Reason being, in active combat, let's just ignore 1v1, right? Because this is an obvious 1v1 nerf. This is a miss nerf, right? Ignore the miss for now. In an actual fight, you are losing so much movement speed. Because 3 stacks here equates to 27% movement speed for 6 seconds. Even if you play AoE Q, which is the worst Q, you're only getting 20% for 5 seconds. So in a long-term fight, yes, you will initially be faster, right? Because you can Q and get the 20% movement speed instantly. Over the course of a long fight, you're a lot slower. You cover just less ground in a long fight, which I think is a horrible mistake. Iron Will buff is insane. A 30% movement speed buff is crazy. People have been using Iron Will for the anti-purge for escape sets. Imagine popping this and then going into something like the minor work boots, right? The movement speed ones. You're just zooming out. There's no catching you anymore, right? The other issue I have with this is this a big counter to swords is now just being removed, right? First of all, we have Dustweaver armor, which will no longer purge stacks, because this will be a separate buff, right? So before, if you're fighting a sword like a Carving, and they had 3 stacks and they were going to clap, just use your Dustweaver armor, they're in it purges their stacks because their stacks give movement speed. They no longer give movement speed, so the stacks don't get purged. Let's say you're doing 1v1 and you're playing spears. So you're like, oh, they have a sword, I'll just play cripple to get rid of their stacks. You can no longer do that because the movement speed is a separate buff. It's kind of a buff and a nerf and a buff and a nerf. It's just, I don't quite get it.
It's very weird.
I hope SBI finds a way to somehow tie the movement speed to the stacks, just so something like Cripple and Dustweaver armor still purge them. Because I think that counterplay should be in the game. And Iron Will needs to get nerfed. 40% is insane. Stop. This is not good.
Yeah, first of all, I don't really get why the passive was reworked. There is a counterplaying into swords, right? If there is a tic-tac-toe, let's say some spears are pretty hard or impossible to win against, right? If you're a sword. Mm-hmm. And I don't get this changed, really. You could play around it, sure. You could use your abilities before they had a chance to purge it, right? Let's say you're playing Carving. You could use your abilities before you get purged, so you get some value out of them, and then your enemy basically wastes their W. It's a mind game. It's not a bad thing to have mind game, right? But I would really like to see an actual example of who thought and why they did this. I don't get it. And then Iron Will. Whoever complained Iron Will, let's be honest here. On ZVZ, you will play Iron Will like an Imagine Carving. Why? Yuri is a mobility spell. You can hit it from 10 light years away. You have Blinks, I can imagine. You don't really do anything else in ZVZ besides that, right? Many people play Carving on plate as well. Who gives a flying fuck? So I don't really get it. Because now, if you think about it, how OP are like gatherers right now? Gatherers are having
Yes.
a field day. 40% move speed. Motherfucker, the dagger was 35. Pair that with normal sprint and you were zooming out of a team like you
No, but
wouldn't believe how fast.
Cheeks,
Think of it.
you're still missing something. You have to just play Q2 on swords, so you get 20%, then 40%, and then you can use boots.
You're gonna be a spaceship, bro.
I think
You're gonna.
I think if you press Q2, press Iron Will, and then press like a refreshing sprint, I think you reach movement speed cap. Like it's so much
It's
movement speed.
insane.
This makes no sense. And okay, Iron Will. If you're making this change to 40%, add a second line here that says remove the stack, right? Then it would be balanced. If it removed the stack of the Q here, that would be good. That would kind of balance it for ZVZs a bit more. It would still make it an amazing escape potential thing, but this is just such an insane change. 40%, man. You're nerfing mobility in actual fights. You're buffing mobility for escaping. This makes no sense in my opinion. I think they should just scrap this entire bit. Limit Breaker has been taking over ZVZ as a powerhouse, offering high damage and utility. Its slow is being removed, its cooldown is increasing, and the resilience penetration is being reduced, but the damage buff is being increased. Remove the slow. The slow was massive. This is a big nerf. Damage buff duration, this is fucking useless. Whatever, dude. Cooldown increase 5 seconds is fine. Since it is quote unquote the powerhouse in ZVZ, you have a shit ton of royal jackets, you have eagles, you have everything. You don't have to worry about cooldown that much. You have assassin hoods, you have, yeah, this should be fine. Resilience span, this is a 4% damage nerf in ZVZ. If it's such a powerhouse, why are you nerfing it by 4% damage? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. If you're gonna nerf Astral Staff by like 13% in ZVZ.
The slow is not only for ZVZ, it's for Mist as well. Like
Yeah.
slow getting nerfed is expensive on the Infinity Blade. Like slow, I think make it a viable weapon because combined with the move speed you would get and the slow, the gameplay was very strong. And so now it's, I think, honestly, I think it was a necessary balance change to it. It's balanced now. It's not crazy. Like he gets bonus damage, more move speed, and you get slowed. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, but
At
is it going
least
to be used like in any other content than ZVZ without the slow? Like
Yeah, that's a great question.
why would you pick an Infinity Blade over something like a Carving or a Kingmaker in 4VX now or 7-man roads, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, I mean the AoE is still bigger, I guess. Like it takes
True.
less skill to play, I suppose.
No, I think this is a weird change. I think it's okay. Besides the slow removal, it's fine. Majestic Smash has struggled to find consistent success since release. Its knockup is now applied faster and ignoring 16 missing returns, but will no longer be stackable. It's no longer be stackable is mentioned nowhere in the actual patch notes. I'm assuming they're adding it. I think. It's just going to be like the fist thing that was really broken with where they had like bomb squads of like 4 of those fists. I'm not entirely sure. Hit delay is now halved, which the hit delay wasn't the issue. The knockup now ignores existing damage returns. That's fine. It now knocks up like ignoring CC resistance, I assume. But that's good. The issue with Kingmaker is the hitbox. The first AoE is really nice. It's a massive knockup, right? Which is good. The issue with Kingmaker is it doesn't do enough damage because the actual slam down for your damage is a very thin line. So getting enough AoE escalation on there is pretty difficult. I would like them.
Yeah.
I would like them to like change the hit instead of being like a straight line in front of you, be it like a slash in front of you, right? Like have the AoE in front of you. That would be the buff it needs, I think, instead of a hit delay decrease and a ignoring diminishing returns on knockups. What they could even do, for example, is keep the current hitbox, right? Where the main damage comes from the big slam downwards, but the half circle in front of you that isn't the big slam takes, let's say, a third of the damage, right? But it still increases the main slam's AoE escalation. That would be a good change.
That would be
something like that. The problem with Kingmaker isn't the fact that it doesn't knock up long enough. The problem is that the hitbox is too small to get proper AoE escalation in most cases. So something like an extended AoE where most of the AoE doesn't do a lot of damage but still increases AoE escalation for the main hit, that would be really good. Dragon's Leaps. First cast range is being reduced as well as gaining a small stand time. Well, I mean, when they said small stand time, they really meant small stand time. 0.1 second. Well, this is good. Gloves are too mobile. This is a good change. Will it really be noticeable? We'll have to see. It's a nerf though. It's a nerf. It's good. It's a good nerf. Good nerf. Earth Crusher's knock-up duration is being increased to further push this weapon towards a powerful utility role. So at 0.2 seconds increase in knock-up. With the amount of knockups we have in the game right now, DR is pretty prevalent on knockups. Is it a good change? Sure. Is it a relevant change? I don't quite think so. Fleet Footwork's roundhouse kick stand time is being slightly reduced, but cross steps cooldown and max range are being reduced to limit mobility overall. Let's see. Fleet Footwork. Let me read the ability because I'm not exactly sure what it does. Which one is it? This one. Combine two effects. The first one is roundhouse kick. Kick all enemies in a cone to a targeted direction. So what's being done to roundhouse kick? Reduce stand time. Okay, that's good. Reduce stand time is always good. Cross step. Dash towards the targeted position. Increasing damage resistance while dashing, and I'll take damage for 5 seconds. Okay. So the cooldown goes up and the dash range goes down. So this is a nerf? Yeah, this is a nerf. Like a hard nerf. Increased cooldown, decreased range. Your stand time is like 0.05 seconds shorter. So yeah. A gravitational collapse slow is too strong in stopping especially play targets from escaping after being hit. The base load duration is being reduced significantly, but it increased the AoE escalation. So wire play collapse. Sure. Why not? If this actually means that getting a proper AoE escalation on this actually still means 4 seconds, then sure, good change. If with AoE escalation it means 3 seconds, then bad change, right? We'll have to see actually how much the AoE escalation on this thing is. Following the previous nerf, Sacred Scepter hasn't felt impactful to use. We are returning the portion of the power it lost to make an. First of all, it wasn't a nerf SBI. Wait, let me show you guys. It wasn't a nerf. It was the absolute destruction of an item. Cheeks can see this right now. The crowd control resistance factor went from 2.5 to 1.2. You cut this weapon in more than half. What do you mean nerf? It got destroyed. What you did to Sacred Scepter wasn't a nerf. You absolutely destroyed this offhand before. The 1.8, sure, it's like half increase from what it is right now. Is it good? Oh, it's probably going to be okay now. I think this has to go up to 2, 2.1, 2.2. I think then it would be balanced. Because why would you ever play this over a shield? A shield gives both CC resistance and a massive amount of damage reduction versus players. I don't know. The change is good. I would like to see it back to where it was. The issue with it, right, is that no one ever used it in PvP. People used it for mounts, right? Transport mounts, you wouldn't get CC'd at all, basically. So my proposal would be give it back at 2.5 resistance factor, and then just make it not affect mounts. That would solve the entire issue.
It's crazy.
Or
you could do the different thing. You could change the days also. Like, yeah, that's an option as well. But you could do like resistance on CC, right? And then add some health into it. It's like basically a different shield. Instead of getting resistances, you get health.
Sure. Yeah, they could do that too. I mean, not as much health as a Iron Root, or not Iron Root, the Tap Root, obviously. But the issue is it's too strong on mounts, and no one uses it in PvP. I want to see people use it in PvP, and then make it unusable for mounts. That would be pretty good change in my opinion. Nasty Wounds area duration is being increased to help it function more as an area denial tool. Hood of Tenacity is really strong already. Why buff it?
They buff it because they overbuff the Hellfire pots. Right now you have the same debuff, or even better as Hellion Hood was, Hood of Tenacity was, with just a pot. So I think where a pot can do a better job of an item, I think, yeah, the item is pretty shit then. I don't see the reason I'm playing it.
Yeah, but this doesn't really... The problem with Tenacity is people are going to walk out of it anyway. No one's going to stand in it for more than 2.5 seconds anyway. And I guess for area denial, but I don't really like this change like at all. I think this makes it like less fun to play against it, while not really offering all that much.
I mean, I think, Ace, if you could do the same thing with a Hellfire pot, for example, right? Why can you not do the same? Just make the Tenacity being able to cast like a pot. Like,
well, because your potion slot is more valuable than your helmet slot.
Yes, but
and Tenacity has way lower cooldown than the fire potion, right?
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, but it's still undeniable. Let's say for a front to back comp or any like one shot kind. You don't actually really need a resi pot if you have a blink up, because if you have death tanks, if you have a good collar, like sure the pot is good, but if you're gonna get clapped, you're gonna die anyways. I don't think you're gonna have time to press a resi pot. Maybe if they're playing dive comp, but then the argument is if you know what they're gonna fight and it's a dive comp, just swap around your potion, even your cape, right? You can play a Martlock cape if it's 90k. If your build is like 3 million, you can afford a Martlock cape in your backpack or food. So I don't know. It's very weird. You can cast it. I don't know. The lingering effect. I think they buffed the lingering effect of it a bit more previously on another patch. I'm not too certain how much they buffed it though. But still, I think it's not good enough. I don't know why would you not play a Hellion Hood, right? Your enemies, your allies don't get silenced. Let's say you're playing tank, you should see a hero doesn't have any Merxus, right? Because the meta right now is Blink. Even if you cleanse it, who gives a fuck? Your cloth, you're inside 10 DPS, you're insta-dead. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of this. I don't think it needs a buff at all. I think you disagree, but that's fine. The next change is really fun, though. Elbow Smash, which is Judicate Boots. Cooldown is being reduced to enable it to be used as an opener for more combos, but its maximum range is being decreased. So it loses 5 seconds cooldown. It also loses 1 meter range. This is an amazing change, I think. Right? For Cheeks actually plays tank.
It's really nice. It's really nice, especially with a hammer, with a geyser, and depending what your E is, it's really massive buff. Let's say Great Hammer, you can play defensive helmet. You can play a soldier helmet for defensive if you really actually need it. With especially the new smuggler cape or whatever you want to do with that, you have double giga pots, so your engage potential is way more aggressive. 20 seconds is a massive buff. I really enjoy this. It gives more options to the game because you can play different builds. You don't need to play only fin sandals for small scale.
Battle Mines. Lightning Storm's interruption damage over time duration was highly frustrating, especially when facing off against opponents with multiple battle mounts. To reduce the impact of failing to dodge or cleanse the effect, the duration is being reduced. Finally, Eagle was really annoying to fight against. This is a good change. Sure, why not? To increase the gameplay feel of weaving auto attacks and spells in both PvE and PvP, most abilities now reset your auto attack cooldown rather than triggering your auto attack cooldown. This just means it's easier to weave light attacks or like just attacks in between spells, and canceling spells with your attacks is a lot more rewarding now. The issue I see with this is there's going to be a lot more DPS, and especially 1v1s. That's where autos are a lot more relevant than in large scale fights, right? So I think SBI is going to have to nerf some AA damage a little bit on some weapons to make it more balanced. We'll have to see how it pans out though when the patch goes live. I think it's a nice change. I think it will make the game feel a lot more smooth. That's good. The lifesteal values of the following foods have been reduced by 25% to compensate for fixing an issue where some forms of lifesteal could return less health than intended. Roasted that. It's the same thing as the nerf on Bear Paws, right?
Yes.
So there's a bug where lifesteal would heal less than intended. SBI now fixes that bug, but they want the lifesteal to be the same as before, so they just nerf the heal you get from them by 25%. If the fixing the issue actually means 25% this gets balanced out, then it's a good change. If it gets nerfed, I don't really see the reason why it would get nerfed. So we'll have to see how SBI actually does this, and if the fix actually works. Always a question.
If this is actually, I mean, if yeah, that's true as well. But the thing is, I don't see why with nerfed. Roast foods are always for PvE and PvP. Like you don't want to usually do roast. I mean, apparently the new Arcane used it. I wouldn't use it. Just play Soldier Helmet if you're insecure about dying like a stupid dog. But more damage is always king. Why would you not deal 20% more damage? I don't get it. And for Mist, yeah, but if this is actually a nerf, it's going to be a big problem because kite builds are going to become way meta again, and the whole thing of them is nerfing the kite builds, right? With the daggers nerfs, the blades nerfs, the move speed. Because if you can brawl, you need to kite. And then kite is a meta again. I don't know, this is very contradictory nerf or buff. I hope it's a buff. I don't know what is happening here.
By the way they word it, I'm assuming it stays the same, is what you're saying, I think.
Yeah, I hope, but it might not be, because it doesn't make any sense.
True. It might not be, that's very right. Anyway, thank you, Cheeks, for joining. Yeah. That was the entire patch note for this one. It's been quite a wild one, honestly. A lot of nice changes, a lot of bad changes too.